Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Boy That Loved a Boy's Love podcast hosted by me, Dion. If you guys are new here, please, I need you guys to subscribe to the Patreon. Also, follow me on social media. And also, let me know below if this is your first time here on the channel. I kind of want to know who is who, what is what, and what's going on. But today's video, we are going to talk about something that I don't know if I ever made a video about before. I don't think I have, but what exactly makes a show a boys love series? And you're probably thinking like, obviously, two boys are romantically linked in a series. Sure, sure. However, I think it's more nuanced than that. It has to be more nuanced. So I want to get your guys' thoughts and opinions on what that is. What do you consider a boys love series? What do you don't? How do you describe certain things when it pertains to like boys love? Are you calling certain scenes in different shows boys love scene? Because I've heard that recently about a show we're going to talk about today, and I'm like, ew. um, but yeah, let me know your thoughts below on this as we go along. And try to just hear me out first. Hear me out first. Let me let you know how I'm feeling, what I mean, and then we can go from there. Okay. So I already searched up. I was like, what is boys love? And it says here, it's a common term used by a publishing industry to categorize works focusing on male relationships marketed at women. So made by women for women, not necessarily, especially recently made by women, but it's definitely marketed towards the female gaze. It says commercial and amateur work. We got mangas, TV shows, anime, games, drama CDs, the whole nine, right? Now, obviously, you're on this channel. You know I react to boys love series. To give you a brief history, the first, I guess, boys love series that I remember watching was called Addicted Heroin. It was a Chinese series. I forgot what year that was, but it was like the first one I actually saw, and I was like, oh my goodness. Now I've seen, queer media, queer characters, and all these kind of things in different shows. Like you watch like Dawson's Creek and Will and Grace and Degrassi, and you have like Noah's Ark and Queer as Folk and movies like Inside Out and wait, it's called Inside Out. The one with the guy who, damn, what's the name of that? I think it's called Inside Out. Um, and like you see gay characters and throughout media different ways throughout the years. It wasn't as taboo as it may have seemed. It was taboo back in the day, like in the 90s and early 2000s. It was taboo, but like it wasn't. It was still common to see queer folk in narratives. A bunch of different films and plot points in TV shows. There were common things that did happen, and a lot of tropes came from it. But as far as it being a romantic dynamic on the forefront, it just seems like the boys love genre of it all is the one that really pushed it forward. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Because I was like, given what boys love is and what it's been doing, what makes a boys love series is it means different things to different people. That's why I wanted to make this video. But as I started watching the shows, I watched Addicted Heroin, and I actually started with my first Thai series, which was Two Moons. That's why I was like, oh my goodness, it had the typical, I guess, enemies to lovers type of thing. It had the school setting. It had all like a lot of the tropes, and then watching Sodus and all the different shows back in the day. And then I started reacting. The first show I watched was Tarn Type, and then onward I was watching Why Are You and all the different shows. I've been watching them all. Not everyone I reacted to. There's some shows that came out that I never reacted to. There's some shows that I just haven't seen and they're really popular. But I have a good grasp on the genre. I've seen tons and tons of series. Some series I watched multiple times. Like I watched History 2 multiple times. I watched History 3 multiple times, but like History 2 I watch in abundance. Crossing the Line is my jam. And Right or Wrong is my jam too. That's slept on too. Right or Wrong is slept on, but like I watch those religiously. I've seen Two Moons multiple times. I've seen Sodas multiple times. Make It Right and Lovesick, like the ones that really got it booming in Thailand. I've seen those shows multiple times. It's so embarrassing because they're not that great, but like I was obsessed. Um, but I remember, I forgot what year this was. We were talking, me and my YouTube peers. At that time, it was me, Alyssa, Chelsea, Alex, Revel, and it was someone else. Maybe not. But that was like the core like group we had here on YouTube as far as me and my peers goes. It has extended to other people nowadays because nowadays you have like Shaki and Jordy as well in the mix, and there's other YouTubers that I personally haven't really interacted with, but I've seen, you know, interact with my peers. So like I know who they are in a way. And there's like reaction channels with groups of people reacting and podcasts. So like it's more extensive now. The whole content creator who makes boys love content is a bigger pool now than it was back in the day. But I remember we were talking about like favorite boys love series, and I remember saying my favorite was Three Will Be Free. And I remember Chelsea telling me, she goes, "Oh, that's not really a boys love series." And I immediately was like, "You know what? You're right, because it's not a romance show. It's a crime thriller that just happen to has queer people in it." And the thing is, just because characters are queer or queer romances are in a story doesn't mean it's a boys' love story. I acknowledge it. I feel that that's true. I feel like boys' love series are okay because it's weird. I'll get into it in a minute. But like the basic thing is it's two males in a romantic storyline. Think rom com. Boys love series are definitely rom com adjacent type stuff because like I feel like lots of romance stuff in other shows is a subplot, not the plot. But boys love is the plot. The romance is its plot, and like rom coms are a contained hour and a half, maybe 2 hour long narrative happening, and boys love has that same formula but stretched out for 12 episodes, even longer, for 45 minutes to an hour, even longer. So it is a weird genre in that sense because it's like it's trying to be a rom com or romantic dramedy or whatever the case may be, a romantic movie but in a show form, and it is odd. And I know like we have romance novels, and they're when you adapt a novel, I feel like it's easier to adapt a novel into a movie. I know you have to cut things out because it is a movie. It's a lot shorter than a novel, but I feel like it's not long enough for a TV show either. Not a long TV show like these boys love like to do. The source material doesn't lend itself to be as long as these shows are, which I've always said that. I feel like cut these shows short or make a movie. We don't need it to be 16 episodes. They don't need to be an hour and a half each. There's not enough material to really fill in that time, and it shows to me. It shows that it doesn't lend itself to this. Like, I'm bored, or the conflict is stretched out, or it's convoluted, and like you're just wasting time because you don't have enough material to fill in time, so you're just doing whatever to do that, and it's kind of like, ugh. But anyways, we're not getting into that today. Today we're getting to what makes a show a boys' love series. Now, with that being said, Three Be Free not being a boys' love series, I would argue what are the foundations of it beyond it being two male characters being romantically involved in a romantic narrative? Because you also might assume that boys love is exclusive to Asian men. And I bring this up because, as you guys know, on my main channel, I do K-pop reactions, and I reacted to a bunch of videos with my friend Tai Chen. He is of Chinese descent, and he's an actor. And during one of our videos, someone left a comment saying, "Oh, hey, I love Tai. I liked you in that Boys Love film you did." Now, when we read that comment, we were like, "Boys Love? What?" And he was like, he asked me, what I did was that boys love, and I was like, I personally didn't think of it that way, but given you and your love interests are, Chinese, and it's a romance film, I guess if checks the mark. I mean, it wasn't English. It was set in America. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I I understand they will call it a boys' love scene as Tai Chin, like he's an Asian man in a romantic dynamic with another Asian man in a romance movie. So I see why they just call it a boys' love. But I'm also like, is that the one of the main indicators? Could you not be black? Could you not be Caucasian? Could you not be Latino and it be a boys' love? Is it exclusively? And I know it's mostly associated with Thailand, Japan, Taiwan. I understand that. Like, you guys, I know you're typing right now, but I understand immediately why someone would assume it's exclusive to a certain group of people. Like, I get that, but I'm also like, is that the rule? Are you automatically excluded from being called a boys' love series if you are not Asian? Answer me that. What do you guys think on that? Because otherwise, you would say, and I think it might be, what's the word, pedantic, or like it's you cutting hairs. It's the same thing as boy, but I don't think boys' love and queer stories are the same thing. You may assume it's the same thing. I understand why, and especially nowadays. Nowadays, lots of boys' love feel more like queer narratives rather than these like fantasy gay romances. Like, it's getting towards a more realistic, more nuanced approach to it that makes it more relatable and realistic in lots of different ways with this type of storytelling they do and what they do with the characters, acknowledge certain things. They don't do a lot of the same tropes they used to back in the day. Like, it's evolved. So I think nowadays it's hard to like tell the difference, but for the sake of the video, I feel like there is a difference, or there have been a difference between the two. But I don't know if your ethnicity plays into that, but I feel like it does. I mean, I don't know. You're not gonna, if two black leads in a movie or even a show that's about romance, you're not gonna call it a boys' love. Also, with that, is it a boys' love if you're a grown adult? Because that's another thing. You might be like, oh, I didn't do a boys' love series because we're 25 plus. We're not boys, and lots of boys' love is set in a school setting. High school is a commonplace. Young boys are in the mangas and stuff. And obviously, we have storylines in college, post college, and people who are older. Especially nowadays, a lot of shows have, like, I mean, you have like Make It Right and Lovesick, where the characters are the typical what you think a boy's love is, and it's like young, but you still, everyone still refers to these shows as boys love, even though now we have full grown adults in the narratives. They do still read as younger. You're not supposed to read that, like, see them as like an older person, right? But they do come off young. Even in the college setting, I think in high school is obviously easier to be like, oh, boys, but like in college, even though they are 18, 19, 20, they still come off as still young teenagers, even if their characters may not be, right? And even in some of the workplace dynamics, yes, sure, they're not teenagers. They're more closer to 30 now. But still, with the certain aesthetics of the actors and the characters, it does read almost the same as the younger counterpart. So it's hard to tell the difference. I mean, obviously they're grown. There's a lot more mature plot lines happening. So, like, you can see the difference, but it's not like they have to change the name because the characters are older. Like, it's only a boys' love if you're from these age ranges. I think it makes sense to change the name. There was a time during the pandemic era which I hated the term boys' love, and it's mostly because it's associated with the toxic fandom, the infighting we all had during that time, and like it was a really crazy time in during the pandemic with this genre and the fandom and all of us. It was a lot going on then. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but it was a lot of messy, messy, messy. So I was like, ugh, gross. But since like it's not that big of a deal, I'm like, boys love YouTuber. I react to boys love series. That's whatever. That's the thing. But I'm over here like, what makes it a boys love series? And do we just call it that because someone's Asian and then there's a queer narrative in it? Is that all it takes? And I asked this because I'm watching Dead Friend Forever. Now, that show, I wouldn't categorize it as a boys' love series. Hear me out, hear me out. The show isn't a romance focused show. There's romance stuff in it. It is. It is. But I would first call it a thriller. I wouldn't even call it horror. People call it a horror show. I'm like, is it really a horror show? Yes, there's scary elements, but it's more of a thriller. There's a mystery to it. There's like it's not even, it's not a slasher. It's not, and people are dying, but it's more of a thriller, dramatic thriller. But anyways, boys love. I'm not so sure about that. Yes, it has some of the tropes and cliches, but the narrative isn't focused on a romance fully and solely. I think a show that focuses on the romance at the forefront is a boys love series. Um, Now, I that show different forever, and not me. It's hard to. I would if you called those two shows boys love, I wouldn't argue against you. I'd be like, sure, sure. And there are some shows that have focus on a character more than a romance, like Bloomy. I love Bloomy, and there's romance at the forefront, but not mostly. It's about this one character and his life, his coming to terms with a lot of things that's going on with him, his filmmaking, his upbringing, his dad leaving the family. There's more things to the single character than just his romance, but the romance is an important part of it. So if you said that's a boys' love, and I would also consider Blooming a boys' love series, but also it's almost more than that. If you said it was is that a boys' love series, I'd be like, okay, that's fair. That's fair. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be, but like other shows, I would like it fits the mark like our dating sim for sure. A boys' love series, it's definitely that. That one Japanese series I watched recently, I cannot reach you. Definitely, boys love down for sure, for sure. However, you watch other shows like Three Will Be Free, which Three Will Be Free is a curious case because there is one episode, episode five, that is in by itself a boys love movie, like by itself, outside like out of context, a boys love film, but in the full narrative, the whole show, it's not a boys love series. Just because it has queer romance, queer characters doesn't make it a boys love, and that's one of the big indicators, that you have to understand. Like you have to be like, oh, the show isn't romance, even though it's in there. It can be in there, but it won't make it a boys' love. The player. There's like four or five queer characters in that show. You wouldn't call the player a boys' love. And that's the thing about it is lots of these licorns will have queer characters and romances and dynamics all the time, but they're not considered boys' love, even though the characters are Asian and they are showing romances and making out and bust downs and all the whole thing. But you won't consider that a boys' love because either it's like something else on the forefront, like a drama, family drama, a thriller, an action. Like it's other things before it's a romance. You know what I mean? And romance is a subplot in the narrative. And boys' love, like I said, it's on the forefront. Um, what other shows are considered boys' love? And I'm like, is it really a boys' love? I guess that might be it. Like obviously all the licorns that have queer characters, those are not boys' love, but they have that. But some shows, like okay, so when we're talking about Death and Forever, I was like, is it a boys' love series? And someone was like, well, there's boys' love moments, and I'm like, oh, then it's not. That's why I don't consider it a boys' love because I'm like, yeah, there's lots of boys' love optics in this. It really is. However, it's not a romance show, so I don't know if it doesn't fit that category in my opinion. But if you like I said before, if you feel like oh, it's a boys' love series, I'm like, all right, you have that. I'm not gonna argue against it. I'm not gonna try to change your mind. I'm not gonna feel. I don't think you're wrong. But also, if you said it's not, I'm like, yeah, I agree. Um, Now, how do you feel about it? About okay, so you know how, especially nowadays, queer people are on the helm of a show, and to me, it feels different than what a boys' love is. Like watching Only Friends, watching um, what's that show called? Be My Favorite. Well, okay, Be My Favorite. Okay, okay. I think Only Friends is more of a queer show than a boys' love series. Yes, romance, romance is on the forefront in that show, but there's other relationships, other dynamics that happen in it. Now, someone said it's a boys' love series, and I'm like, okay, sure, you got that. Like, but like, it reads more than just a boys. Like, I don't know, because it's almost like splitting hairs when it comes to like a queer series and a boys' love series, but there is a difference, and I feel like Only Friends fits the narrative of a queer story. And I also feel like Moonlight Chicken also fits that bill. Again, that one, if you say the boys love, I'd be like, all right, work, sure. If you like, oh, it's a queer narrative, it's not, I'd be like, I agree with you. It's really more than just that, and I like that. And I think what it is, you know, when you see a show, especially nowadays, they do things a little bit differently now. They make the characters who are queer feel more queer by having them have past relationships. Back in the day, it was very much so like, I don't like men, I like you, or their experience with a man, the same sex dynamic is their first time, or they're not even acknowledged that they are, gay or bi or anything like that is not something that's on the forefront. And shows nowadays, it's everywhere. You have coming out stories. You have people who are already gay. They have ex boyfriends. There's more to it than just a more naive approach to it, and it makes it feel more queer because of it, which is refreshing. I think that's a great way to do these shows now by having the characters not feel like one dimensional fantasy, and they feel like more actual queer people, despite even being in a fantasy setting. It's all fictional, obviously, but like if they have more things going on with them, it makes it the characters more fleshed out. They make it seem like real, actual queer folk that are going through things. Like, Be My Favorite having one of the main leads come to terms with their sexuality, stand on business when it comes to sexuality, and have that be a focus. I was shook. I was shaken. I was stirred. And My School President. And you know what's crazy? My School President occupies both spaces. The main couple, I think, is a queer romance. The second couple is a boys' love. And you're like, wait a minute. Hear me out. Yes, I know. Optics, young boys, high school, romance, and our main couple, that is true. And their romance is the on the forefront. But since the characters' personal things are also heavily utilized in the show, it does come off more of a queer narrative. One character has this whole goal and dream of being a musician and having obstacles to get to that point, and his relationship with his mother is on the forefront a lot, as well as his relationship with the old boy, but also with his friends. He's more than his romance. And in the other lead, he is the main focus of the romance. That's his whole thing is to date this boy. However, his queerness comes into question. Coming out to his mom is a thing. He gets outed to the school. It's way more fleshed out, and it's like I said, it's more of a queer narrative, and it's really handled in that way, which makes it one of my favorite pairs. I'm gonna do a top 10 favorite boys love couples. They're definitely on that list. And it makes me really like that, and it makes me feel like it's less boys love and more queer. However, the secondary pair, they fit the bill closely to a boys love. Like them I think maybe because the characters, I'm not saying boys love always has one dimensional, unfleshed out characters, but it's very common, right? Tropes, cliches down, right? All day, every day with the characters. There's not much going on with them. And that does happen a lot with secondary couples. Like in My School President, they're characters that really their romance isn't really handled in a way. They just have the optics of two boys all of a sudden now liking each other, kissing, and being kind of flirty now. It just boys love, and boys love seems like you're just reading a page from a Wattpad novel. That's how I felt about Kiseki. Like a lot of that narrative and that seems like I'm reading chapters or random chapters in a boys love, YA novel rather than a whole full narrative, which happens a lot. And I feel like that's a good indicator if it's a boys love or not. But now Korean shows that come out recently do have the characters be queer and have ex boyfriends and whatnot, but they do still have the tropes and cliches of boys love. The romance is the focus, even though the characters have more things to do. They have more personal journeys. It still occupies the boys love space. But if you were like, oh, it's a queer narrative, I wouldn't bat an eye at that either. Like the Eighth Sense, like I said, Blooming as well. Even what's the show I'm watching recently? With the video game stuff. Well, no, not that one. Well, maybe the Lover Love's Sake. I'll put that in just strictly boys love. I don't know if that's queer per se. Right? Yeah, I would put that in there. I'm thinking of another show. What am I missing? There's another show another Korean show. I guess Unintentional Love Story occupies both spaces. What's that one with the boys from X1? Damn, I forgot the name of that one. I reacted to it too. I forgot the name of it. Well, that one, that one leans towards. It does have elements, and I'm not saying like I know it sounds like I'm saying like if you're a boys love series, your characters don't have their own narratives outside their romance. That's not what I'm saying. I guess I am saying that, but it's just sometimes the Korean dramas occupy both spaces so seamlessly by having the romance be heavily featured, but also the character's own personal journey heavily featured. And last time in Thailand, even Japan, those series, the romance is way more of a focus than anything else. Oh, what occupies a good space between the two is My Secret Love. First of all, I love that show so much, and it pokes fun at the genre, like having the the dean of the school make these two boys be basically her puppets and making profit off of them being a boys love couple and the fandom eating it up, and like it's a commentary on that in a way. I think it's very clever, but then also the romance, but also characters' relationship with their friends are tested. There's more layers to a relationship with each other because like the one couple, he resents his boyfriend for being a better photographer than he like. It's a whole many layers, so many layers to it. And I guess it's just a better narrative for a boys love series than that. And also, what about Great Rainbow? Great Rainbow is textbook queer story, personal journey and romance, and it's the show itself is bigger than the romance, even though that's a good portion of it. It does occupy. If you said that's boys love, I'm like, okay, yeah, but also it's still in that queer narrative space. They deal with being queer, the pushback, the taboo of it all, the your family neglecting you or doesn't they don't want you to get like it has all of those things in the show, right? And the thing is, I don't know where the line is when it comes to that, or if it's even a reason to bring it up. If like a boys love series have like characters who deal with being queer, does it make it a queer narrative than a boys love when it's their queerness is on the forefront as something that they have to deal with, or is a part of their character? Because sometimes some characters are like obviously gay, but like that has very little to do with the plot. You know what I mean? So like, wh- how do you even tell the difference? And also, another thing I want to bring up that I've noticed in boys love, because how boys love works, actual queerness is almost not considered. And what I mean is, like, think of Light on Me, and what's that show called? Never Let Me Go, where the characters get outed, right? And they end up not being with the main character. Obviously, they're in-game couple with someone else, but in the story, they're outed, and they end up not being with the main character because they're outed for whatever reason. And I noticed when I watched Light on Me and even Never Let Me Go, everyone is so against the person who is outed for not standing by their man or coming out or owning it or whatever the case may be. And it seems like what happens is you forget what actually happens with queer people when this stuff happens to them. It is a very dangerous and scary situation to actually factually be in. And the shows themselves are using it as a reason to break up a love triangle and have it just be the person dating the other person. And in the narrative, it may be the reason why they don't end up together, and the other person who is hurt by it hates the other person for not standing by them, claiming them. But it takes away the actual impact that it has on the other person. The actual queer person that's actually dealing with the consequences of this thing happening is hurting. But the fandom and then the characters in the story most times see them as like the villain or the bad guy in the narrative, which is disheartening to me. It makes it seem like actual queer folk are disposable and are not given the same compassion. And I know in the narrative it's used, they only use that type of storyline to break up a potential couple in a love triangle type of thing. So he ends up with the other person. That's the only reason why it's used. It's never used to bring people together. It's always used to break them apart. Except in My School President. My School President, they did it well. It brought our main character and his mom together rather than break up the pair. Which is also why I like that show. Like, oh my gosh, they did it so well. But like, and I think I made a video about this already when I talked about Light on Me, because my Discord, they were really dragging the president character, being like he's indecisive and he needs to be knocked down a few pegs. He's so perfect. I'm like, half of y'all are here queer people. Why are y'all not understanding how terrible this is? And obviously, when I say that, they're like, yeah, you're right, it's bad. Or yeah, the kids are being so terrible to him, and like they're saying it after the fact that I'm bringing it up. But like, no one's initial feeling is like, oh my goodness, this person was outed. Oh my goodness, people are bullying him now. People turn their back on him. Or even in Never Let Me Go, the dad is terrifying. You don't know how that man is. And even when we know more information about, like we see the dad in Never Let Me Go, his son, he's screaming. He's like, his son's not gay, and like it's Photoshop, and he's telling his son, tell me the truth. Like what? Like it's a scary situation that we can see. And yeah, maybe the show isn't showing us his actual home life, but it's heavily implied. And being like, well, we don't know what's actually going on. It kind of undercuts the reality of a queer person, and you want to just hate this character and not show any type of sympathy, which is very telling. Because I don't think Boys Love fans inherently are pro gay people, and that shows me that right then and there. You may be like, that's not fair. I'm an ally or whatever the case may be, but I'm also like, well, the things you said about this character and me just being dismissive of what this could mean when we've seen like the dad be so angry, him being scared to come out, and even him saying like he couldn't date the cousin character, Perp's character before because of that same reason. What's going on here? No type of sympathy for that? Not even a little bit? All you see is he broke the main character's heart. And the main character doesn't have to deal with the same thing he's dealing with. What you always notice that. Have y'all noticed that? When Light on Me and Never Let Me Go, those two main characters, when everyone's outed and stuff, they don't have to deal with the same amount of hate and all the things that come along with it, like that other character does. Have you noticed that? I've noticed it. It's very disheartening. And see the fandom just not care is so weird to me. Because, Boys Love optically is a queer narrative. So what's going on? And I understand you disassociate because it's not it's fiction. You know associated because you're a woman and it's not you're not. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a weird fine line, and it's I to me at my big age now, being a reactor, YouTuber, I'm not too pressed on the term boys love and what is and what isn't per se. But I do like the idea of moving away from the boys love trappings, tropes and cliches. We're always gonna have tropes and cliches in these shows, always and forever. There's no change in that, and I don't think it needs to be changed up too much, really. But with it feeling more queer, acknowledging the queerness of it, showing respect. I'm not saying you can't have heavy, upsetting storylines in your shows, but showing some type of reverence and respect to the community is appreciated. And I think boys love series can do that. They have before in the past. Maybe if they do that, they're not considered boys love anymore. But who cares? Like it, you know. But I just wanna bring this up to start this conversation to see what you guys feel. Like, is it a boys love if it's non-Asian folks? Is it a boys love if you know thriller, family drama, action, anything else is on the forefront before the romance? Is it still a boys' love? Is it a boys' love if it's English? I like to say foreign queer series. That's what I like to say. Especially nowadays, especially the shows are getting more queer focused. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of hard though, cause I get like Three Will Be Free and The Player, like they're not boys love series or they don't have boys love elements. Um, and like I like that. It just queer stuff is happening in it, and it's so great, and it's better narratively than a boys love series. Most times, in my opinion, one there's more focus on other things than the romance, which gets stretched out in these shows typically. So it's like it's a better way to see queer people in the thing, and they're more active and like yes, they can be flawed. They can be the bad guys in the stories, but they're not treated as in a way where it's shameful to be gay. I don't know. It's weird. But the Boys Love series nowadays are kind of giving a bit more to that, though, which is also fun, you know. But yeah, anyways, let me know your thoughts below on this. I'm very curious. I wonder what you guys think. Um, and yeah, oh, subscribe to the Patreon, please. Please and thank you. Follow me on social media. What else? What else? I guess that's it. I will see y'all in the next video.